I, 24F and my boyfriend 23 male have been dating for nearly 2 years. I'll skip the unnecessary details about our relationship, but we have a very solid one. We live together and have only really argued once in our entire relationship. However, there is a problem. A little over a year ago I developed thrush. For those of you who don't know, it's basically where a woman's vagina becomes very fragile and she is prone to tearing/blistering/small cuts. It itches a little, too. My God, was that horrific. I was on and off trying different creams, but I was so stupid because my sex drive was incredibly high. My boyfriend, I'll call him Dave for the sake of this post, also had a high sex drive. We're talking boners every day, multiple times a day, maybe up to 8 to 12 times a day depending on what we were up to. We would have sex twice a day, every day for a little over a year. I was vocal about my thrush and there were times where I thought it would go away, so I gave myself the green light and we went at it. To anyone reading this, if you or your partner have thrush, please wait at least a week until symptoms end until you have sex again. Please. Because man, it isn't worth it. Every time we had sex, something down there would tear. Thank God he didn't contract it, but I would yelp in pain and I'd have to clean up blood from our bedsheets. It was hell. After around 2 months of me thinking I healed, us trying again, and then me ripping seconds after penetration, he stopped initiating. I totally understand why. It took me about a month and a half of no sex to heal from thrush. I told him that I officially was healed, and he said that he was happy I was okay. However, he wouldn't initiate anything. So I did. I tried everything in the book. I dressed up. I tried dirty talking him. Strutting around naked. You name it, I tried it. No, our physical affection wasn't affected. We would cuddle for hours, still. It was our sexual affection that ended. After about 3 months of this, I decided to confront him. I asked him what was wrong, and what I could do to make him attracted to me again. After a very long pause, he said that he was still attracted to me. He was just scared of hurting me again. I suggested that we could start slow, maybe just blowjobs, fingering, doing finger stuff, whatever. He agreed, saying that he would like to try it out. A few weeks passed and I tried initiating to no avail. Every time I would try, he'd just kiss me on my forehead and hug me, saying "aw." All followed by cradling me along with more pecks on my forehead, cheek, and lips. Now, this is very cute, but after getting rejected time and time again, it began to hurt. It's been 3 months since then. Recently I brought it up. I didn't want him to think all I wanted in a relationship was sex, so I didn't talk to him about it sooner. But I realized it was taking a toll on my mental health, so I thought it would be best to communicate how I felt. I told him exactly this, and I asked why he wasn't horny around me anymore. He said I don't know. But I'll find out what's going on eventually. And that was the end of the conversation. He recently took a blood test and everything was fine. All of his levels were perfectly normal/healthy. He rides his bike 3 to 5 kilometers daily and has a decent social life. Not a lot of drinking, either. He jacks off maybe twice a week, which is completely fine with me. He doesn't watch porn. At least, if he does, it'll be a once or twice a month thing. Another thing to note is that I haven't gained or lost any weight since our relationship started, so I don't think it's anything like /that/. Recently I've been feeling so lonely. No, I will absolutely not cheat on him or seek attention elsewhere. But I feel like less of a woman. I have to go lock myself in the bathroom and turn the bath waiter on to bawl my eyes out while he's in the other room. I don't want him to see me like this. It's like we're roommates who cuddle, kiss, and have deep conversations. He used to get boners just looking at my clothed body. What changed? I asked if he possibly was traumatized from my thrush. Am all good down there now? And he said he wasn't. I don't want to be a controlling girlfriend and tell him he has to have sex with me. Small update, while this is getting attention, sorry it couldn't be a more interesting post, but I've gotten some lovely advice. I am going to assume that he's traumatized but in denial, so a lot of patience is needed for this. I decided that I will slowly show him that nothing is wrong by, gosh, sorry for the TMI, presenting myself to him with a dildo inside. Obviously I won't just drop my pants when he gets home from work, lol. But I'll slowly ease him into watching and see what happens from there. Another update, thank you for the responses. I've gotten some interesting advice from all of you. It varies from, tell him you are thinking about cheating, to Heskay to he's been seeing someone else, to go to couples therapy, and if the above doesn't work, I believe I will suggest going to couples therapy. I forgot to add that I have vaginismus. I'm a total catch, aren't I? And that may have led to thrush/my yeast infection. I will absolutely not cheat on him or threaten him with a breakup. However, I will mention very verbally, but kindly, of course, that this is making me sad. So much so that it plagues my mind every day, and I'll even mention to him the whole crying in bathroom thing, as much as I don't want to. I am on vacation for another 25 days, so I won't have an update until then. Update 1. I, 25F, returned from my trip abroad after leaving for 1 month. It was very hot in the city we live in together, and it is uncommon to have an AC in this country, Germany. So, I decided to purchase a fan. Now, that was a whole situation on its own, and I even posted it on my profile here nearly a month ago. Long story short, my boyfriend, 24 male, was feeling uncomfortable about me getting a fan. I promise this ties into my update, and was so upset about it, that when the fan arrived he was visibly upset and went as far as walking out of the room without speaking to me for a few hours. He later came into my room on hour 3, after I made a Reddit post about my confusion about the fan, and told me that we needed to talk. He said he needed until tomorrow to explain himself, though. So I waited. He sat me down the next day and began with the weirdest thing. I don't get excited about things you get excited about. What? For instance, the fan. I don't. I'm not excited about it. I told him that I would be more than happy to move the fan into the living room, where I could sleep on the guest bed during warm nights. He shook his head and told me it wasn't about the fan, and he didn't know why he brought that up. He paused for a long while and began to tell me what was going on with him. And no, it wasn't what anyone suspected. A bit of important background: when we first started dating 2 years ago, on the third date I told him that I wanted children in the future, and I only wanted to be with him if we could be together for the long term. He was happy that I wanted children. I then told him that it was not my wish to be pregnant. I wanted to adopt kids, or if his bloodline was important to him, I would consider surrogacy. He said he was okay with this. Well, months passed. 2 years passed. Apparently, this whole time, he hasn't been intimate with me because he wanted us to have a real family where I would get pregnant. At the moment, I am 25 years old and I don't even want to think about pregnancy. He is 24. Here in Germany it is very uncommon to have children at a young age, and we both agreed that we wanted kids when we're anywhere between 30 to 35 years old. So this took me by surprise. I simply cannot fathom how you don't want to have sex with your partner because you dislike the idea of adopting children with them in the far future. He says he felt guilty for feeling this way, and was trying to come to terms with it. He kept on trying to get over this feeling and hoped that it would pass, but every time I brought up our future he shut himself down. I noticed that he was much more hesitant to talk about the future, to fantasize about where we would live, what we would name our kids, what our day-to-day lifestyle would be, so I stopped pestering him about it. I heard that Germans like to take things slow, and I didn't want him to think I was rushing him. But I should have brought it up more. I know I should have. I kept on convincing myself that I was being too clingy and pushy about our future together, so I was able to simply stop asking about it altogether. We immediately decided to split up, and I decided to move out because moving stresses him out, and he had a huge exam coming up that he needed to focus on. Luckily I found an apartment. It's sadly very expensive, so I'm now trying to find a roommate, which has been very stressful. Between the breakup, searching for a new roommate, moving, and working, I'm going crazy. I want him back. We spoke about getting back together, but he said something along the lines of, I don't know. I love you. But I guess if I really loved you enough, I would have stuck with you through anything. And I didn't. What does that mean? I don't know. Maybe I made a mistake. Maybe I'm still making that mistake by not trying to work things out. But maybe this is the right decision. I don't know, Op. I wish you would have told me that your mom suffered from many miscarriages before having you. Maybe that would have changed my mind. But I made up my mind at the time and it looks like I have to stick with it. Or not? I don't know. I know I should have told him about the whole my mom had like 10 miscarriages before having a baby, but I didn't think that was important as I have many reasons for not wanting to get pregnant. It just isn't my thing. And you know, if he did love me like he always told me he did, he would stick with me through this. But he isn't. That's my answer. I don't want to accept it, but that's just how it is. You know the saying, if he wanted to, he would. Well, I'm a true believer in that. He's been crying daily, and while I do appreciate him helping me move out of our apartment, it keeps giving me false hope when he comes over to set something up for my new place. I keep thinking, oh, he'll come around, except he doesn't. It's only been 3 weeks, but he seems so incredibly lost and hurt over this that it isn't worth it for me to give this a second thought. I am utterly heartbroken. I wish we could have talked this out rather than jumping to a breakup solution, but I don't have any answers to this problem. I know better than to wait for him to come back to me, but my God, my mind is telling me to do so. Life has become much more complicated and I don't even know if I want to live in this city. I'm so defeated right now. All of our friends and family members have told us that there has to be more to his story. There has to be another reason as to why he doesn't want to mend things. But I've asked over and over again and he said it was this single bump, for lack of a better word. I thought, aside from our lack of sex, that our relationship was perfect. I don't know where to go from here. Edit, the thing that is bothering me is that when we met, I was absolutely against pregnancy. But now, especially in the more recent months, I've warmed up to the idea. After all, it's been 2 years. If only he spoke to me about this, I would have told him my mindset changed. I told him this a few days after the breakup and he said he wished he could go back in time so we didn't break up. But that doesn't make sense to me because, can't we just talk about this now? It hurts my add. Now on to second story. Ignored our daughter's fake injury, sparking a feud with my hypochondriac wife who took our other daughter to urgent care for a canker sore. My 28F wife, 26F, Sophia, takes every scratch our daughters, 7 and 5, get extremely seriously. Every bruise, every scraped knee, every cut is an emergency to her. And because they're emergencies to her, they become emergencies to the girls. Not only does this mean it's hard to tell when an injury is actually dangerous, did she twist her ankle, or break it? Is her arm bruised, or fractured? But the kids are responding badly to any hurt they feel now. At the mere sight of blood, the 7 starts wailing like she's been stabbed. Even worse, her sister has started intentionally banging her arm into things or falling on concrete if she thinks she's not getting enough attention. Last week my wife took the oldest one to urgent care because she got a canker sore and Sophia was convinced it was something more sinister. While she was gone, I had the younger one, who was upset that Sophia had spent so long on her sister and had now taken her to the doctor to get special attentions. So she threw herself on the tile floor in front of me and started screaming and holding the wrist she hadn't actually twisted. I'm so tired of all of this, I just let her scream. When I didn't give her the attention she wanted, her screaming in pain turning into sobbing because I wasn't cuddling her and kissing her better and promising her cookies and a late bedtime. I told her I'd be in the den with the cats when she felt like joining us. I felt like a bitch for letting her cry herself out, but she's never going to learn to walk off scooter falls or getting hit with dodgeballs at this rate, and she can't be rewarded for this kind of behavior. It's just not healthy. Eventually she ran out of tears and came to sit with us and I let her have a watered down soda. Well, when Sophia got back with the older kid, who now had the same new Ming gel we already had in the cabinet and $200 urgent care bill, our younger daughter told her what happened and now she's furious at me for ignoring something that could have been serious. I told her she's the one making mountains out of molehills and feeding into the actual dangerous behavior. We've been fighting about it all week and the kids have only been acting up more as a result. I'm so tired of this. Maybe my appendix will bust and I can spend a few nights in the hospital away from this insanity/s. Update 1. Clarifications. Number 1, this is not Munchausen's by proxy. Y'all have got to lay off the Hulu docuseries and stop trying to diagnose strangers with serious and sinister medical issues based off one post written by their annoyed spouse. My wife does not hurt them, she is not poisoning them, or looking for drugs to feed them, or posting all over social media about how great she is and how lucky the girls are, etc., or trying to scam people out of money or a Habitat for Humanity house. Sophia is not worrying for the attention of it. She is trying to ensure that they don't feel ignored and neglected, to the point that she takes everything that say serious, but she's gone too far and it is now backfiring. The few people who pointed out that the younger's behavior of faking injuries or actually giving herself a bruise could develop into something more serious are correct, however, which is a concern that I also have. 2. Attention. The girls get attention. They get plenty of attention from both of us. They are not being neglected to the point that they need to injure themselves as a cry for help. For one thing, my older daughter doesn't do that. She is just genuinely convinced that bruises could be internal bleeding and any bump on the head could be a concussion. Which means that I'm going to have to give her the period talk pretty soon, or she's going to think she's dying if her starts early. For another thing, the younger one tends to only do it when she thinks her sister is getting something she wants, or we said no earlier in the day. They get attention, but they get special attention when they're sick or hurt. Someone in the comments last time, don't remember the name, suggested flipping it to discourage the younger girl's behavior, by essentially taking away fun things and forcing them to rest when they're sick of hurt. A few other people suggest pain charts of some variety, or first aid classes. Those might help with the older one and Sophia herself. That was probably the most viable advice I got, however well-meaning and true a lot of other stuff was. 3. Therapy right now is not an option. You can suggest it all you want, I can and have suggested all I want, but as of right now it will not be happening anytime soon. We had a very experience with a highly regarded adoption specialist therapist a few years ago that resulted in our older daughter having more issues with her adoption than she did when we started, issues that we've had to figure out how to manage on our own because the 2 therapists we tried after that only compounded and exacerbated those new issues. My daughter would have been better off if she'd never been to therapy in the first place. As a result, my wife has lost almost all of her faith in mental health professionals. Quite frankly, I lost the majority of mine as well, and while I've made mention of it to Sophia, my bigger focus is on getting her to just change this one behavior. 4. Was my wife traumatized a child by being medically neglected? To the best of my knowledge, no. She doesn't have any long-term health issues, and she was never very involved in any physical and potentially dangerous sports when we were in school. Her family hasn't suffered from very many illnesses or accidents, even during COVID. So while I've driven myself to an emergency dentist before and broken my wrist without even knowing it, the only time she's ever been in a hospital was to pick her dad up from a colonoscopy. At least before she started taking our daughters in for benign bumps, bruises, and cuts. 5. No, my wife does not have postpartum anything. The actual update, after a couple of other comments brought up how my girls behave away from us, I decided to ask. My wife works a normal 9 to 5, while I work 3 12s from 6 p.m. to a.m. on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. During the winter they have school and daycare respectively. This winter the younger one will be in kindergarten though, and during the summer they both go to daycare from about 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. on my work days, and just in the mornings on other days as needed. I do drop-offs and pickups. When I picked them up on Monday, I decided to ask one of the caretakers how the girls had been behaving. She told me they were fine, they bickered sometimes, but there was nothing unusual going on. I asked what happens when they get hurt or feel sick during the day, how they handle it, etc. I didn't tell them about my wife. I didn't want to be telling tales out of, or at, school. I think she might have thought I was looking for help, which I was, technically, because she told me that as soon as a kid falls down, or takes a ball to the face or anything else, they start the whole interaction by telling them you are okay, and assessing the damage calmly as they approach. Even if the kid is bleeding, they don't react. They say something like, "Wow, that looked kind of scary. I bet it surprised you. Let's see your arm/leg/whatever." She basically wrote me a script. I asked her how my girls reacted to it, and she told me that the older one was a little more sensitive than her peers. She cried easily, and they had to be extra firm with the "you are okays" with her. The younger one she saw a little less. She's in a different age bracket, she only just turned 5, so she's still technically in the pre-K group, but she'd never heard anything about her. I asked what exactly they do if a kid is bleeding or bruised. For Brew, say they can sit with a little ice pack for 15 minutes before they need to come back to the ground, unless it's actually serious, and for cuts they get it washed and a band-aid. So nothing exciting as far as I could tell. The fact that we haven't been called into the school to pick up our totally terribly injured 5-year-old before tells me that she knows she won't get Madre's special treatment at the school, and since I will be the one picking her up if they think she's too sick or something, there's really no point in kicking up too much of a fuss unless she just wants to hold something cold for a few minutes. Neither of the girls have been hurt or sick this week. We stopped arguing, because I frankly do not have the energy to do so constantly. I'll look into the pain chart and first aid classes and bring up boring damage mitigation soon, once we've both had time to calm down. Oop, I'm going to put this here, since apparently it needs to be said. I am aware that saying it's okay or you are okay the way the daycare workers do is a good idea. This is what I have been trying to implement for a long time. Even if a child is genuinely hurt, adults need to remain calm to keep the child calm. If an adult is upset, then the already upset kid will become more upset, and if that kid isn't upset, then they will be when they see their parents freaking out. I am not looking for excitement. I genuinely have no idea how you read my post and got that impression. None. If I'm playing checkers, you've started a game of chess. I am trying to end the excitement. When I said nothing exciting in my post, it was not because I don't want to implement something boring, it's because I do. I very much want my kids being hurt to stop being exciting or rewarding. That is the entire point of everything here. Of a week of arguing, of every other argument before this one. There was no one working up my older daughter. The younger one wasn't getting rewarded. If anything, being hurt at daycare got her essentially a timeout with an ice pack, or rubbing alcohol and a pat on the back. That is a good thing. That is what I want. Oop, I've talked with her a lot about it. It used to start when she was already worked up because one of the girls was hurt or something, and I'd try to calm her down and help the girls calm down. She'd be so keyed up that it would turn into a fight fast. So after a while I stopped trying to interfere at the time, because us arguing while one girl and inevitably the other cried wasn't exactly helpful. After that I started waiting until after all of the excitement of the emergency had passed by to bring it up. Especially when the younger girl started intentionally falling or bumping into things. I'd try to tell her that making a huge deal out of every scrape was just making things worse and the girls needed to figure out how to self-regulate and tell if they were actually hurt or not. She would accuse me of being callous and tell me she wasn't going to make our daughters feel helpless, hurt and abandoned, and no matter how hard either of us tried is dissolved into another argument.